My father and sister constantly humiliate and criticize me about my weight. Even though I have helped my sister a lot, I have decided to cut ties. I'm a 26-year-old woman, happily married to my wonderful 30-year-old husband. We live about 3 hours away from my family, which has given me the space to build my own life. But my relationship with my older sister, who's 34, has been tumultuous at best. To give you some context, my sister has had a tough time of things. She was married to a man who cheated on her, took her gold jewelry, and left her when she was 8 months pregnant, with a 4-year-old to care for. It's been messy, and her life choices haven't been easy. But for me, it's the constant humiliation I get from her that has pushed me to my breaking point. Over the years, my sister and I have argued about everything, from the smallest things to the more serious issues. We've never been able to see eye to eye. We didn't speak for nearly 2 years, during which time I got engaged and married, and moved away. I was living my life, far removed from the constant bickering, and it felt like a relief. But recently, I was not asked, but told that I needed to help my sister with her kids for a week while my father went on holiday. My dad, who lives near her, usually helps her with the children. But this time I was expected to step in. I agreed to help. Even though I knew it was going to be difficult, my husband, ever supportive, took time off work to come with me. We thought we could manage it, just for a week. We'd wake up early every day, help with the kids, and then head back to my dad's house by 6:00 p.m. after the kids went to bed. During this week, we did everything for her. My husband even mowed her lawn, and we took her 4-year-old to school. Every day, my sister would comment on my weight, bringing it up in a way that made me feel ashamed. She was no better, having put on weight herself, but she never hesitated to point out my flaws, and this time was no different. I'm not thin, not by a long shot. I've struggled with my weight for years. I've tried everything, and I've made progress. But when I look in the mirror, I don't always like what I see. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not the type to constantly broadcast my struggles. My sister, however, made it her mission to make me feel bad about it every chance she got. It wasn't just comments here and there. It was a constant, daily barrage, and I was getting fed up. Yesterday, things finally came to a head. We were sitting on the couch watching TV, and I casually mentioned how someone on the show had lost a lot of weight. Out of nowhere, she started pushing me for an answer, asking why I hadn't done the same. She called me lazy and said I was just sitting on the sofa all the time, not doing anything to change. I tried to stay calm, but it was getting harder. I could feel my heart rate rising, and I knew a panic attack was coming on. I didn't want to argue with her, and I definitely didn't want to fuel the fire. So I stayed silent, hoping she would drop it, but she didn't. She went on about how I was being selfish, that I was being irresponsible by not losing weight, especially when I was thinking about having kids. She accused me of being angry, and when I tried to explain that I wasn't angry, just uncomfortable, she didn't listen. Instead, she pushed harder, claiming I wasn't doing enough to take care of myself. She laughed at my attempts to explain that I had already started making changes, but she wasn't having any of it. It was clear she was just waiting for a fight, and I wasn't in the mood. I told her that I didn't want to argue and that I had been making changes, but she wasn't listening. She kept bringing up how lazy I was, how I could have done something about my weight while I was there, how I should be doing more. The conversation quickly spiraled out of control, and my anxiety went through the roof. In the middle of this conversation, she started to yell, holding her 6-month-old in her arms. I was already on the edge, and the yelling only made things worse. I could feel my panic attack coming on, and I knew I needed to get out of there. So I excused myself and went upstairs to where my husband was working. I told him I needed to leave, and he immediately wrapped me in his arms, comforting me as I tried to calm down. But my sister followed me up, and instead of letting it go, she began yelling at my husband. She said she could say whatever she wanted to me because she was my older sister, and that my husband was just too soft on me. She slammed the door open, and the yelling continued. My husband was doing his best to calm me down while trying to tell my sister to leave the room, but she wouldn't stop. She started shouting at him, saying I was just a bullshitter, and that he needed to be tougher on me. It was clear she was out of control, but my husband remained calm, trying to protect me. The more she yelled, the more I felt like I was losing control of everything. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore. My panic attack was getting worse, and I ran to the bathroom to be sick. My husband followed me, trying to hold me up as I was violently shaking. Meanwhile, my sister continued to berate him, saying he didn't understand me, that he needed to be tougher. I couldn't process it all. I just wanted to get away from the chaos. Eventually, my husband and I decided it was time to leave. We gathered our things, and I could feel the weight lifting off my chest as we walked out. But my sister wasn't done yet. She stormed towards me, yelling that she never wanted my help again. I knew this was coming, and it was exactly what I had feared. As we were about to leave, I said something I immediately regretted. In the heat of the moment, I told her, "No wonder he left you." I didn't mean it. I never should have said it. And the moment the words left my mouth, I knew it was wrong. But it was too late. My sister shouted even louder, and the situation escalated. She said we were done, that she didn't want anything to do with me anymore. I left, feeling a mix of anger, guilt, and relief. When we got back to my dad's house, the text came through from my sister. She wanted to know how much we'd spent on gas, claiming she'd pay it back. And then, of course, she told me to lose weight. She said it was out of concern, but I knew better. It was just another dig. My husband stood by me, telling her that it wasn't her place to say anything, and that if she wanted to talk to me, she had to talk to both of us. That's when I knew I had to make a choice. I was exhausted. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I was done. I couldn't keep going back to this. The toxic cycle needed to end. This is just the beginning of the story, but it's already a turning point. I don't know what's next, but I do know that I can't keep living like this. After the confrontation with my sister, I knew I had to make a serious decision. The tension, the insults, and the manipulation were too much for me to bear anymore. I spent the night in my dad's house. Trying to process everything, I felt like I was trapped in a cycle, constantly being belittled and humiliated, no matter how much I tried to be there for my sister. The next day, when my husband and I were talking, I realized something. My sister had always been toxic, and I had allowed myself to be a part of that toxicity for far too long. Every time I tried to help her, every time I gave her a second chance, she just used it against me. I felt like a doormat, constantly apologizing and letting her walk all over me. But I couldn't do it anymore. My husband was right when he told me I didn't have to take her abuse. I needed to protect my own mental health, and that meant cutting ties with her once and for all. So, I made a decision. I blocked her on everything. No more calls, no more texts. It was hard, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I couldn't keep letting her make me feel like garbage. I couldn't keep letting her undermine my efforts, my progress, and my happiness. But of course, things didn't end there. My sister, being the narcissist she is, immediately went on a full-blown campaign to turn the rest of the family against me. My aunt called, my cousin texted, and even some family friends reached out, trying to guilt me into fixing things. It was the same old story, your family, you need to fix this. You can't just walk away from your sister. But I was done. For the first time in my life, I stood firm. I told them the same thing every time. I'm done being abused. If you want to support that, then go ahead. But I'm not going back to that toxic environment. And you know what? Some of them understood. One of my cousins confided in me that my sister had done the same thing to her, twisting stories and playing the victim. I wasn't the only one she had manipulated. That was all I needed to hear. It wasn't me being dramatic, it was her. Still, some of the family didn't get it. They didn't understand why I couldn't just let it go, why I couldn't just accept her as she was. But the truth is, I had tried, for years. I had tried to be the bigger person, to swallow my pride, and to put up with her behavior. But I couldn't anymore. I didn't have to. 2 days ago, my dad came back from his holiday. As expected, he reached out to my sister first. I didn't contact him at all. I knew she would twist the story, and I wanted to see how he would handle it. Sure enough, the first call I received from him was filled with anger and accusations. He didn't ask how I was doing. He didn't ask if I was okay. No. The first words out of his mouth were, "What did you do to your sister?" I stayed calm. I knew exactly what was coming. He went on a 30-minute rant about how I had disrespected my sister in her own home, how I had thrown my help in her face, and how my husband had insulted her. He even threw in that "no wonder he left you" comment, just like my sister had. At that point, I knew I couldn't just sit there and take it anymore. I told him the truth. For the first time in my life, I didn't hold back. I told him how my sister had been bullying me all week, how she had called me ugly and lazy, how she had denied my trauma, and how she constantly used her kids as a weapon against me. I told him that I was done being the punching bag of this family. If he chose to believe her, then fine. But I was done. And you know what my dad said? He sighed and said, "You should still apologize to her." That was it. That was the moment I realized that my father would never change. I wasn't surprised, but I was heartbroken. I told him goodbye and hung up. I was done. For the first time, I felt relief. My husband was by my side the entire time. He had supported me through every argument, every breakdown, and every difficult decision. He held my hand as I cried, telling me how proud he was of me. I had always been the one trying to make peace. But now, for the first time, I was standing up for myself. I blocked my sister, and I blocked my dad. I couldn't keep letting them tear me down. I couldn't keep living in a family that made me feel worthless. And then, the unexpected happened. My sister reached out to my husband, asking him to tell me that she was done with me. She said she would never ask me for help again. She went on and on about how she had forgiven me for everything, but she couldn't handle the way I treated her. My husband told her that if she wanted to talk to me, she needed to talk to both of us, not just him. He stood by me as he always has. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in all of this. But it didn't stop there. My sister kept reaching out, trying to manipulate everyone into thinking I was the problem. She even went so far as to say I was the toxic influence in her life. But I knew the truth. I wasn't the problem. She was. I'm done. I've made the choice to walk away, and I'm sticking to it. It's not easy, but it's what's best for me. My peace is worth more than any family drama, and for the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself. But that's not the end of the story. There's more to come. The days following my decision to go no contact with my sister and father were filled with a strange calmness. It wasn't that I felt totally at peace, but I felt relief, like a heavy weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was finally done trying to please people who didn't respect me. For years, I had been playing the role of the mediator, the peacekeeper, the one who swallowed my own hurt just to keep the family intact. But I couldn't do it anymore. After I blocked my sister and father, I didn't expect things to get better overnight. I knew there would be a fallout, but what happened next was something I didn't expect. My extended family started getting involved, and it felt like a whirlwind of guilt and manipulation coming at me from all directions. My aunt called, trying to guilt-trip me into fixing things. My cousins texted me, and some family friends reached out as well. I wasn't surprised, but I also wasn't going to entertain it. I told them all the same thing. I'm done being manipulated. If they wanted to support my sister, they were welcome to, but I wasn't going back to that toxic environment. But what really hit me was when one of my cousins, someone I had always considered close, confessed that my sister had done similar things to her. She had twisted stories, played the victim, and made others choose sides. It wasn't just me. I wasn't alone in this. That realization brought me so much comfort. It wasn't me being dramatic. It was her. For years, I had thought I was the one causing all the issues, but it turned out I wasn't the only one she had hurt. In the midst of all this, I tried to focus on my own mental health and well-being. I hadn't been to therapy in years, but after everything that had happened, I knew it was time to go back. I started looking into therapy sessions, planning to work on myself and get the closure I needed. I had been so emotionally drained for so long that I knew I needed professional help to navigate all of these emotions. And then something unexpected happened. My dad, the man who had always sided with my sister and made me feel like I was the problem, called me. It wasn't from his usual number. It was an unknown number, and I wasn't sure what to expect. But when I heard his voice, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. he sounded different. He wasn't angry, he wasn't condescending, and he wasn't accusing me. He sounded tired. For the first time in my life, my father acknowledged that maybe he had been wrong. He told me that, after I hung up on him, he actually took the time to think about everything I had said. He realized how much he had been enabling my sister's behavior. He admitted that he hadn't been there for me in the way that he should have. I was stunned. My father had never been one to admit when he was wrong, but here he was, saying that he understood where I was coming from. I wasn't ready to forgive him just yet, but it felt like a small victory. I asked him straight up, "So what about my sister? Are you going to defend her again?" And he replied, "She's still your sister. You both need to fix this." I told him that I wasn't interested in fixing anything with her, not unless she was willing to acknowledge what she did. He sighed, and for the first time, I could hear the weariness in his voice. He didn't argue with me, he simply said, "I understand. It wasn't an apology, but it was progress." And for the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, things could change. Maybe I could have a relationship with my dad, but it would be separate from my sister. I wasn't going to be guilted into playing the victim anymore, but my sister wasn't done. She called my husband again, trying to play the victim and manipulate him into taking her side. She said she had forgiven me for everything, and that I needed to fix things. My husband, as always, stood by me. He told her the same thing he had told her before. This isn't a conversation for her to have with him. He was on my side, and no matter what, he wouldn't let anyone guilt-trip me into going back to that toxic relationship. As expected, my sister didn't take it well. She started reaching out to other family members, twisting the story even further, making herself the victim and painting me as the villain. But I wasn't going to play along. I knew the truth, and that was all that mattered. Then, 2 days ago, my dad called again. This time, it was from an unknown number. I picked it up, not knowing what to expect. The moment I heard his voice, I was taken aback. His tone was different, not angry, not accusatory, but calm. He said, "I've been thinking about what you said." I stayed quiet, waiting for him to continue. And then he said the words I never thought I'd hear, "I don't want to lose you." I couldn't believe it. My father, the man who had always chosen my sister over me, the man who had never stood up for me, was finally acknowledging that he had failed me. He didn't outright apologize, but he admitted that he had been wrong. He admitted that he had been enabling my sister's behavior all along. For the first time, I felt like maybe my relationship with my dad could be salvaged. But at the same time, I knew that my sister and I would never have the relationship we once did. I had done everything I could, but she had crossed too many lines. When I asked him about my sister, he said, "She's still your sister. You both need to fix this." But I knew I couldn't. I had tried. I had bent over backward for her, and she had taken everything for granted. I told my dad, "I appreciate you reaching out, but I'm done. I'm not going to be manipulated anymore. I won't sacrifice my peace for a relationship that's toxic. If you want a relationship with me, it will be separate from her." He didn't like that answer, but he didn't argue. He just said, "I understand." And for the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had done the right thing. I was choosing myself for the first time in my life. The family drama wasn't over. But I had made the choice to walk away. I had chosen to prioritize my mental health, my well-being, and my marriage. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The aftermath of the emotional fallout with my sister and father has been an unpredictable journey. But as time has passed, I've slowly begun to feel like I'm reclaiming my life. For years, I felt like I was being tossed around by the storm of family drama, constantly trying to please others, always putting everyone else's needs ahead of my own. But now, I am finally standing firm and putting myself first. It hasn't been easy. There are moments when I feel guilt creep in, especially when I think about my nephew and the baby. They are innocent in all of this, and I love them dearly. My heart breaks knowing that I may not have a relationship with them moving forward. But I also know that I can't continue to sacrifice my peace and well-being for a family that has continuously disrespected me. My sister has made it clear that she is never going to change. And I can't keep going back into that toxic cycle. It's not healthy for me, and it's certainly not healthy for them. I blocked my sister, and I blocked my father as well. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but I knew it was the only way forward. I can't keep letting them manipulate me, gaslight me, or make me feel like I'm the villain in their narrative. They've both done their best to make me feel small and worthless for years, and I'm done being their punching bag. However, my dad's call 2 days ago was a turning point. It wasn't a happy moment, but it was the beginning of something new. When he admitted that he had been enabling my sister's behavior all along, I felt a weight lift off me. He wasn't apologizing, but it felt like he finally understood. For the first time, he saw me the real me, not the one his guilt made him blind to. And when he said he didn't want to lose me, it meant something. It wasn't everything, but it was progress. But I stood my ground. I refused to let the past continue to dictate my future. I told him that I couldn't fix things with my sister unless she acknowledged what she did. If she wanted to make amends, she would have to meet me halfway. I'm done being the one to put in all the effort. And if my dad couldn't respect that, then our relationship would remain strained. I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace just to keep the family together. I deserve more than that. The hardest part of this journey has been watching the family dynamics shift. Some members of the extended family have tried to guilt-trip me, urging me to make things right with my sister, but I've remained steadfast in my decision. I've explained to them time and time again that I'm done being manipulated. If they choose to support my sister, that's their decision, but I won't be dragged back into that toxic environment. I deserve peace. And that peace is only possible if I remove myself from her influence. One of the most surprising things that came out of this was when my cousin confided in me that my sister had done similar things to her, twisting stories, playing the victim, and turning people against each other. I wasn't the only one. It wasn't just me she had hurt. This made me realize that I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't the only one suffering from her manipulation. That realization gave me the strength to stay firm in my decision to go no contact. But it wasn't just about my sister and my dad. The whole experience forced me to take a long, hard look at myself. For the first time in a long time, I realized that I had been letting my family dictate my life. I had been letting them guilt me into staying in unhealthy relationships, making me feel like I owed them something. But I don't owe anyone my peace, my happiness, or my mental health. I owe it to myself to be free. As for my husband, he has been my rock throughout all of this. He's the one who has supported me, comforted me, and stood up for me when no one else would. When my sister screamed at him, when she insulted him, he remained calm and did everything in his power to protect me. His unwavering support means everything to me. I couldn't have made it through this without him by my side. He's been patient and kind, and he's taught me what it means to have someone truly care for you. No strings attached. The day I told my dad that I was done, my husband was right there holding my hand, assuring me that I didn't have to take this anymore. He gave me the courage to stop being afraid of losing my family and start focusing on building a life where I feel respected and loved. And for the first time in a long time, I truly felt like I was making the right choice. Things have been relatively quiet since that call from my dad. I haven't heard from my sister or my dad directly. I've blocked them on all platforms, and my husband and I are living our lives, focusing on our future. The distance has given me clarity. It's given me the peace I so desperately needed. But it's not over. My sister's manipulations haven't stopped. She's still reaching out to other family members, trying to paint herself as the victim, but I'm not interested in playing her game anymore. I've made it clear to everyone around me that I'm done with the drama, and I won't engage with it. If they want to support her, they can, but I'm no longer willing to be dragged into her toxic web. And my decision to go no contact isn't just for me. It's for my future. It's for my mental health. It's for the life I want to build with my husband, where I don't have to constantly worry about being insulted or belittled by family members who are supposed to love me. I want peace, and that peace comes from cutting out the toxicity that has weighed me down for years. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I'm never going back to that place where I let my family dictate my happiness. For the first time, I'm choosing myself, I'm choosing my husband, and I'm choosing the life we're building together. And if that means losing my family, then so be it.